The beauty of California's wildflowers is more than just something to admire. It's part of a living ecosystem that supports birds, bees, butterflies, and countless forms of local wildlife. That's why we came to visit and film the Wildflower Show organized by the California Native Plant Society. This event is not only a celebration of nature's beauty, but also a reminder of how important native plants are to our environment and our communities. Native plants have evolved here over thousands of years. They naturally support local pollinators and wildlife, require less water, and are better adapted to California's climate. At a time when drought and habitat loss continue to affect our state, planting native species is one simple but powerful action each of us can take. Native gardens conserve water, reduce the need for chemicals and fertilizers, and create healthy habitats for butterflies, bees, hummingbirds, and other essential wildlife. Throughout this show, we had the opportunity to speak with 5 passionate individuals: gardeners, volunteers, educators, and plant advocates. And all of their interviews echoed the same message: every person can make a difference. You don't need a large property or a perfect garden. Even planting a few native flowers in a small yard, balcony, school, or community space can help restore habitat and reconnect people with nature. Small actions, multiplied across neighborhoods and communities, create lasting environmental impact. What we saw here today was more than a flower exhibition. It was a community coming together to protect biodiversity, inspire environmental stewardship, and encourage sustainable living for future generations. We hope this film encourages more people to learn about native plants, support local conservation efforts, and take part in helping California's wildlife thrive, one native plant at a time. Tucked beside the Bill and Jean Lane Education Center at Edgewood Park in Redwood City, the Edgewood Native Plant Garden is a living showcase of California's rare serpentine ecosystem. This half-acre garden brings together many of the native wildflowers and plants found throughout the preserve, species specially adapted to nutrient-poor soils that create the vibrant spring blooms that Edgewood is known for. Designed for close-up exploration, the garden makes it easy for visitors to experience this unique habitat without hiking the trails, while also supporting conservation, education, and research. Maintained by dedicated volunteers, it reflects a community effort to protect and celebrate local biodiversity. I'm here at the Wildflower Show with Howie Smith. Howie is a volunteer that helped establish the Edgewood Native Plant Garden. What inspired the creation of this garden at Edgewood?
So after the Ed Center was built at Edgewood, it was a pretty disturbed area, as you can imagine, when they built the Ed Center from the construction, and they decided they wanted to have a native garden at Edgewood. And there is some specifications they had for this native garden, in that they only wanted plants that were sourced from the park there in Edgewood. So they gave me permission to collect seeds and a few cuttings, and I have grown almost everything from seed or cuttings. The goals that we had when we started the garden was to have native plants that were found throughout Edgewood in an area where people, when they came to Edgewood, could look at these plants. There are signs on many of the plants, and so they could become familiar with the plants there in the native garden. And then as they walked through the garden, they could know the names of some of these plants and recognize them. Also, the trails in Edgewood are kind of steep, and so for people that have limited mobility, they can walk through the native garden and see a lot of the plants that are native to Edgewood.
How does this garden reflect the natural heritage of this region?
History, I guess, of Edgewood is has both serpentine and non-serpentine soils. The serpentine soils limit a lot of the taller growing things, and these shorter things that grow on serpentine soils if you give them those conditions, they'll grow in Edgewood, in the native garden.
What partnerships or organizations were crucial?
So San Mateo County Parks, we have a very good relationship with them, and they have provided a lot of support for the native garden. And Friends of Edgewood and California Native Plant Society.
What kinds of wildlife have returned or benefited from the garden?
So there is a nice population of fence lizards in the park. There are slinks, which may or may not have been there before. The deer visit the park regularly. Turkeys visit the park, and probably quite a few birds. They have an active docent program at Edgewood, and so in the spring, Friday through the weekend, they have docent-led hikes, and so they will start right there at the Ed Center, and they may go around the Ed Center. They have a really good docent training program. And so where they recruit and train new docents. They have a children's program, so in the spring, they'll have busloads of school kids that will come to Edgewood. They lead them on hikes. People come and have picnics there. So it's quite a program to connect to the community. One of the things I've tried to establish with this native garden is kind of a natural ecological system. So I have not done a lot of landscaping. I try to plant the plants where I think they're adapted, and they sort of, when they go to seed or start spreading around, they sort of find where they're most comfortable. And they find a way to integrate with each other. So that's one of the things that's really attracted me, is not to have a landscaped native garden, but a natural native garden where things sort of evolve all together.
Creating habitat for birds and pollinators starts with the plants themselves, and that's where native wildflowers play a key role. Organizations like Grassroots Ecology are helping communities restore those landscapes one garden at a time. I'm here with Deanna Giuliano of Grassroots Ecology. Deanna, can you briefly introduce yourself and your role at Grassroots Ecology?
Yes, I am the nursery director and botanical consultant, and I take care of our nursery, and that is where we collect local native plants and propagate them for restoration around the Bay Area. We grow local watershed-specific native plants that are specific to our watersheds in the area, mostly for restoration projects. We have 21 sites within the San Francisco Bay Area.
How do you involve volunteers or local residents in your work?
We have, as Grassroots Ecology, we have many different programs, and you're all welcome to look on our website. We do stewards for high schoolers. We have summer interns for college people. We have volunteer events at our different sites, and we're very community orientated and driven. So anything you're interested in, I'm sure you can find a spot to come volunteer with us.
If someone wants to start a small native garden at home, where should they begin?
I would say looking up resources with your local California Native Plant Society has many talks about gardening with natives. There's also garden tours. You can also learn more by planting natives, maybe starting with container plants to start you off. That's a good start.
How can people support your mission and get involved?
Volunteering is always an easy way to get involved. And of course, donations are always greatly appreciated, as we're a nonprofit and we always appreciate any help we can get.
A thriving native garden is more than a collection of plants. It's the beginning of an entire food web. Pollinators arrive first, and birds soon follow. To talk more about that relationship, we spoke with Santa Clara Valley Bird Alliance. I'm here at the Wildflower Show speaking with Carolyn Knight of the Santa Clara Valley Birding Alliance. Carolyn, can you briefly introduce the work of the Santa Clara Valley Bird Alliance?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you. So the Santa Clara Valley Bird Alliance is an organization that works in environmental education and local conservation. Our focus is primarily our birds, but of course we are lovers of all sorts of wildlife, so we work to protect both our birds and the habitats that they rely on. And a large part of our work is getting people outdoors to enjoy all of the wonderful birds that we have around us.
What brings your organization to the Wildflower Show?
That's a great question. So wildflowers, in addition to being beautiful additions to your garden, are also a really great way to support your local birds, because not only are they going to provide food directly to our pollinators like our hummingbirds, but they will also provide a food source for all of the insects, the butterflies and the moths that will then become food and visit these flowers. Oftentimes they are some of the pollinators, so helping these flowers reproduce, but they are also going to be feeding on the predators of these flowers. So they're feeding on the insects, the little beetles and mites that would otherwise be feeding on these native plants. So the birds act as a sort of pest control for all of the wonderful plants that you've put into your garden. And these bugs, in turn, are what's going to feed up all of the baby birds that are hatching out of eggs right now. And oftentimes, some of the most important foods for our baby birds are going to be things like caterpillars, which are attracted to our gardens by all of these beautiful natives. We've found that a lot of our native insects actually have better nutrition for a lot of our animals, and not just birds, but things like western fence lizards as well that we see scurrying around in our gardens. So if they really are looking to get the nutrition they need to grow and be healthy and sustain themselves in our ecosystems, the best way for them to get those nutrients in their diet is by feeding on native insects. One of the challenges that wildflowers have to overcome is just people's perceptions. One of the challenges we have with getting people to shift more towards native plants is they're under the impression that a California native is going to create this scrubby, less than gorgeous habitat within their yards. But we really do have a wonderful variety of gorgeous plants that need very minimal tending to once they've established, that will fill your garden with flowers all year round, that will create large shrubberies for privacy or ground cover. And so just raising the awareness is going to be really helpful for this, and that's one of the reasons this Wildflower Show is so important. We do have quite a bit of urban development here in Santa Clara County, and what this has done is it's actually created these tiny islands of usable habitat for our wildlife. So instead of having a large space where they can freely roam, where they can hide away their nests where they're tough to get to, they're stuck with these tiny little parks where the edge of their habitat where they're living is a street corner, or they are building their nest but it's right next to a glass plate window that shows their reflection, and so every time they see their reflection as they visit their nest, their stress hormones are spiking because they think they're seeing a different bird that's suddenly found their nest. So urban development, whether it is by disturbing the habitat that's already present, by fracturing the habitat that we still have remaining, or by simply existing in places where our birds or other wildlife we're calling home, will be a big disruption. any amount of native plants in your yard are going to be a big help. It doesn't have to be a process where you're ripping out your entire lawn and you're landscaping with 100% California natives directly from the local watershed. It can be as simple as having a potted monkey flower on your patio. Maybe you're scattering poppy seeds in the street corners, in the areas between the sidewalk and the street. The smallest difference of adding maybe one new plant or putting out a plant on your balcony can really be supportive to both our insects as well as the birds.
Santa Clara Valley Bird Alliance highlighted the importance of protecting wildlife ecosystems. Continuing that theme, Open Space shared how thoughtful landscape and outdoor spaces can help people connect more closely with nature. I'm here with Monique Rangel of the Open Space Authority of Santa Clara Valley. Monique, what is Open Space as an organization?
Open Space is a government-funded adjacent agency. We are funded through tax parcels, your property tax parcels, and we buy land with that, and we make sure it stays undeveloped, conserved, and protected for many generations to come. We have hiking, biking, and bring your own horseback riding trails in 3 in South San Jose, in Coyote Valley, going towards Morgan Hill, and 1 near Milpitas that butts up on Alum Rock, and that's called Sierra Vista. Yeah, we try to get people out in nature, connect them to nature, and preserve nature for our four-legged relatives as well. Protecting open spaces is important for our community for many reasons. It's important for our four-legged relatives that have to cross from Santa Cruz to Diablo mountain ranges in their natural migration pattern. A lot of our human infrastructure is concrete, and we have displaced many of our relatives, four-legged and human, on Muwekma Ohlone lands. So we try to provide them safe crossings and a place to live. It's also very important for the community, I think, for mental health reasons and for our youth to have that connection to nature. A lot of the times in cities, that connection has been lost, but it's an ancestral connection. And so it's very beneficial just for people to get out, smell the fresh air, and enjoy our open spaces. We support the environment in many ways. We plant native, just like we're here at the California Native Plant Society Wildflower Show, and we steward the land. We also help the water because we are on a lot of wetlands, and we protect the flora and fauna. We do a lot to conserve within our preserves and also urban parks. So we have grants, and those grants will go to properties like Vegilution, farms that are urban, and urban parks as well. So that's how we help protect and conserve the land. I think the biggest challenges are finding the land. A lot of San Jose and the Silicon Valley are developed on, and it has historically been orchards and wetlands. So just trying to fund those millions of dollars in projects and get the funding to protect our open spaces and buy out the land and make sure it stays undeveloped forever is quite the challenge, but our team is on it. If you're interested in volunteering, we have amazing volunteer opportunities such as our land stewards. You could be a docent with us, or you could come out to fun events like this and spread the love of Open Space Authority. Go check out our website and get involved with us.
After exploring ways to bring people closer to nature with open space, we discovered Flora Creations, where dried flowers are turned into beautiful arrangements that support charitable giving. I'm here at the Wildflower Show with Emily. She has a beautiful exhibit of dried flowers. Emily, what first drew you to working with dried flowers?
Well, I grew up in a home with a large garden. My mother especially loved roses, so I used to play with the flowers. I grew up that way.
How do you choose which flowers to preserve?
Well, it's by trial and error. I don't have any training. I am not trained in art. I'm a scientist. Just try some to start with, and then after a while, I learn what not to do and what not to pick.
What's the biggest challenge in working with delicate dried plants?
You have to keep everything very clean, and you work with very sharp tweezers because they are very fragile, especially native flowers. Part of the reason is because they are, you know, just they don't require a lot of water. They have really petals. So a dried petal, except for California poppy, most of them have the petal the thickness of maybe a fifth of a piece of saran wrap, and they are very thin. You have to handle them very carefully. They break pretty easy.
Why is it important to support organizations like California Native Plant Society?
It is because this is to support the environment. We all live in this planet, and especially in California, there are so many people, and we have a lot of beautiful flowers all over, and we need to support our environment, make sure we have good water. So native flowers, water, heat, a lot of them is drought resistant, and we want the planet to be okay for the next generation too.
What's one small thing anyone can do to help protect wildflowers?
Well, the best thing to do is people go and walk and enjoy it. Don't go pick all the flowers and don't step all over them. Let them grow naturally. If you really want or like me, dry them or like to pick them, get some seed and grow it in your garden. And you enjoy them that way. I grow all these flowers are from my garden. I don't pick from the wild. I don't pick from the park, and don't do that. Let the flowers flourish, and let it pass on from generation to generation.
Wildflowers may be small, but their impact reaches far beyond what we see. They feed the pollinators. They sustain the birds. They hold ecosystems together. And they remind us that even the smallest things can shape the world in powerful ways. Protect them, and they will continue to give life.